The steel cables of San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge trembled slightly in the sea breeze. 28-year-old Emily clung tightly to the railing, her knuckles white from gripping too hard. Behind her, her boyfriend Thomas grinned and handed her a hot coffee. As she tilted her head back to drink, she suddenly noticed the soft glow in his eyes, a warmth she'd never seen in their 6 months of dating. 10 minutes earlier, they'd been bickering over their weekend trip route. But with the 128-meter high bridge swaying gently under the traffic and the salty sea wind whipping into their collars, the tension between them melted away, replaced by an indescribable sense of closeness. Later, Emily wrote in her diary, "In that moment, I suddenly thought, he might be the one I want to spend the rest of my life with." This kind of emotional misjudgment triggered by dangerous or thrilling situations is exactly the famous suspension bridge effect in psychology. In 1974, Canadian psychologist Arthur Aaron conducted a classic experiment on Vancouver's Capilano Suspension Bridge. He had an attractive female assistant stop male pedestrians on 2 different bridges, ask them to fill out a questionnaire, and leave their contact info for follow-up feedback. One bridge was a wobbly suspension bridge, only 1.2 meters wide and hanging 70 meters above the ground. The other was a stable, low-concrete bridge. The results? 39% of the men who filled out the questionnaire on the suspension bridge reached out to the assistant on their own, while only 9% did so from the concrete bridge. In later studies, Aaron explained that when people are in a dangerous or stressful environment, they experience physical arousal, like a racing heart or rapid breathing, and the brain subconsciously looks for a reason for this reaction. If there's a potential romantic interest nearby, it's easy to mistake that environment-induced physical arousal for attraction to the other person. Psychologically, the core of the suspension bridge effect is a real-life example of the 2-factor theory of emotion. This theory argues that emotional experiences have 2 parts: physical arousal and cognitive labeling. Physical arousal provides the energy base for the emotion, while the cognitive label determines the specific nature of that emotion. Take the racing heart you feel on a suspension bridge. It could be interpreted as fear, but in a social setting, it might just as easily be read as attraction. This misinterpretation usually depends on whether there are clues in the environment that trigger romantic associations. In modern society, this psychological phenomenon is widely used in dating, film and TV, and marketing, becoming an invisible tool for building emotional connections. In the dating world, the rise of the experiential dating industry leans heavily on the suspension bridge effect. In Los Angeles, the Extreme Dating Company offers a canyon adventure date that draws thousands of single people every year. Guided by professional instructors, participants work together to tackle thrilling activities like cliff climbing and ziplining. They have to collaborate to get past obstacles. Mark Turner, the company's founder, told the New York Times, "When 2 people face a 30-meter-tall climbing wall together, or share the feeling of 8 meters per second wind speed on a zipline, their bodies release adrenaline, and their brains link that excitement to the person next to them." Our data shows that couples who went on these extreme dates are 47% more likely to be in a stable relationship 3 months later than those who had traditional restaurant dates. The essence of this model is creating controlled, dangerous scenarios to lay a physical foundation for growing affection. Lena Feldman, a psychology professor at New York University, tracked 200 couples who met through the program. She found that 62% of them, when recalling how their relationship started, mentioned a moment of sudden attraction while completing an exciting task together. But few realized that this initial attraction actually came from environment-induced physical arousal. In film and TV, Hollywood has long woven the suspension bridge effect into storytelling to create classic romantic scenes. In Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie play a married couple who start out hiding their identities as assassins, then fight side by side amid a hail of gunfire, and finally confirm their deep feelings for each other in the ruins after an explosion. Director Doug Liman revealed in a behind-the-scenes interview, "We deliberately set the climax scene in a collapsing warehouse, the swaying steel frames, the flying sparks. These elements make both the audience and the characters feel physically tense, and when the leads hug amid the chaos, the audience, just like the characters, turns that tension into emotional resonance for love. This isn't a coincidence. A study on film psychology from UCLA found that romantic movies with thrilling scenes, like chases or explosions, get 32% higher ratings for chemistry between the couple than movies with plain, calm plots. Another example is Titanic. When Jack and Rose stand at the bow of the ship, arms outstretched against the sea wind, the slight sway of the ship and the physical arousal from the high-altitude setting turn that moment into a timeless romantic symbol. In marketing, many brands have turned the suspension bridge effect into a driver of sales. Patagonia, the outdoor clothing brand, once launched a wilderness date gear set. Besides camping equipment, the set included items for light adventure, like climbing ropes and first aid kits, along with a detailed wilderness date guide to help consumers create thrilling scenarios safely. After its release, the set topped the outdoor gift category in North America for 3 consecutive months. Sarah Cole, the brand's marketing director, explained, "We noticed young consumers are no longer satisfied with traditional gifts like flowers or chocolate. They want to create unique emotional memories through shared experiences. When a couple sets up a tent in the woods or crosses a stream together, their bodies remember that excitement, and that memory gets tied to our brand." Starbucks, the American coffee chain, launched its Urban Adventure Cup series in 2023. The cups are designed like mini maps, marking light thrill spots in the city, off-the-beaten-path hiking trails, rooftop observation decks, and more, to encourage consumers to explore with their coffee. After the series launched, discussions about the topic on social media surpassed 5 million, and 72% of the shared posts included scenes of checking in with friends/partners, which indirectly boosted coffee sales. It's important to note that the suspension bridge effect doesn't only spark romantic feelings. At its core, it's a cognitive bias about physical arousal, and this bias can play out differently in different scenarios. For example, in workplace training, some companies use team-building activities like high-altitude broken bridge, where you jump over a gap on a high platform, or trust fall to boost team cohesion. The idea is to use the physical arousal from thrilling scenarios to make employees see each other as partners who overcame difficulties together, which increases trust and willingness to collaborate. But there are also potential risks. If people rely too much on the feeling of attraction created by the external environment, they might overlook the truly important factors in a relationship, like shared values or compatible personalities. Just think about those men who felt attracted to the female assistant on the suspension bridge. Without deeper understanding later on, that emotion based on a misjudgment can hardly last. From the sea breeze on the Golden Gate Bridge to the explosion scenes in Hollywood movies, and even the outdoor gear in stores, the suspension bridge effect is like an invisible thread, quietly shaping how we perceive and judge emotions. It reminds us that human emotions aren't entirely spontaneous. The interaction between environment, physical reactions, and cognitive interpretation weaves a complex emotional web. Understanding the suspension bridge effect doesn't just help us see the psychological logic behind our feelings, it also lets us be more rational when we feel attraction. After all, a truly long-lasting relationship requires being able to see each other sparkle in the mundane routines of daily life, even after crossing that suspension bridge.